Hello, I'm Rose Markey, and this is the Microlearning Project. We want to provide you with thought-provoking ideas and value-added skills that you can use personally and professionally. This is episode 3, where I will begin sharing more concepts from Brene Brown's Dare to Lead curriculum. I'm going to take myself off video so that you've got time to just watch the slides as we go through the content. So grab your coffee and let's go. So Dare to Lead is about courage. It's not fear that gets in the way of courage, it's armor. In today's session, I'm going to help you understand where, when, and how we use armor. Then in the next 2 sessions, I'm going to show you how you can use grounded confidence, curiosity, and to give you some tools to lean in rather than trying or resisting armoring up. We all use armor to protect ourselves. But armor is heavy and prevents us from growing and being seen and being in connection with others. When we are in fear or an emotion is driving self-protection, there's a fairly predictable pattern of how we assemble our armor, piece by piece. I don't know if you're familiar with the Transformer action figures, but this is what I picture happens when my courage is down and out, I'm preparing for the worst, or getting defensive about something. I armor up, chink, 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 one piece of armor at a time. This also feels like those times when I would almost be able to create a brick wall where I would layer the bricks really fast. I just became a master bricklayer because I was protecting myself from whatever I felt was a threat. So in this case, just from moving from a VW Bug to a larger than life action figure where I'm about to tear something up, that's how it feels. And I want to share with you what it sounds like in my head. So with this scenario, suppose I'm at work and a big decision's been made that impacts me, my role, and perhaps the livelihood of many others. In other words, I'm feeling threatened, I'm hooked by emotion, and I want to say something. My inner monologue might sound like this: I'm not enough. You know, if I'm honest with them about what is happening, they're going to think less of me or maybe even use it against me. No way am I going to be honest about this. No one else does it. Why do I have to put myself out there? Yeah, right. Screw them. I don't see them being honest about what scares them. And they've got plenty of issues. It's actually their issues and shortcomings that make me act this way. This is their fault, and they're trying to blame me. In fact, now that I think about it, I'm actually better than them. And then chink, chink, chink goes the armor, and I start armoring up. So when it comes to assembling your armor, what are 2 situations that are likely to lead you to armoring up? And what does your armoring up process look like? What happens with your body language, your words, your thoughts, and what might be your go-to transformer behaviors? So next I want to talk about armored leadership versus daring leadership. We know that courage is contagious. Once it starts, it moves to the next person. And in order to scale daring, courageous leadership and to build courage in teams and organizations, we have to cultivate a culture in which brave work, tough conversations, and whole hearts are the expectation, are not necessarily rewarded. So I'm going to go through these 16 statements, and I want you to, as I read them, take a mental inventory of where you show up as a leader, whether it's formal or informal, or even take a look at how you show up in your personal life. We do all of these things to some degree. There's no good or bad side. It is what it is. And so I invite you to make a note, jot something down, or observe in yourself which ones really grab you. So when it comes to armored leadership and daring leadership, I'm going to read from the slide. I'm going to read left to right, going back and forth. So armored leadership. Do you drive perfectionism and foster fear of failure? Or do you model and encourage healthy striving, empathy, and self-compassion? Do you work from scarcity and squander opportunities for joy and recognition? Or do you practice gratitude and celebrate milestones and victories? Do you numb, or do you set boundaries and find real comfort? Do you propagate victim or Viking or crush or be crushed mentality? Or do you practice integration, strong back, soft front, wild heart? Do you relish being a knower and being right? Or do you relish being a learner and getting it right? Do you hide behind cynicism, or do you model clarity, kindness, and hope? Do you use criticism as self-protection, or do you make contributions and take risks? Do you use power over, or do you use power with, power to, and power within? Do you hustle for your worth, or do you know your value? Do you lead for compliance and control, or do you cultivate commitment and shared purpose? Do you weaponize fear and uncertainty, or do you acknowledge, name, and normalize collective fear and uncertainty? Do you reward exhaustion as a status symbol and attach productivity to self-worth? Or do you model and support rest, play, and recovery? Do you tolerate discrimination and a fitting in culture? Or do you cultivate a culture of belonging, inclusivity, and diverse perspectives? Do you collect gold stars, or do you give gold stars? Do you zigzag and avoid, or do you talk straight and take action? Do you lead from hurt, or do you lead from heart? So what are your two most armored traits? And what are your two most daring traits? If shame and blame is our management style, or if it is a pervasive cultural norm, we can't ask people to be vulnerable or brave. Shame can only rise to a certain level before people have to armor up and sometimes disengage to stay safe. So here's the question. What is one commitment you are willing to make that would lend itself to a more daring culture? So another 15 minutes just flew by. I want to give you a preview of our next episode where we're going to be rumbling with tough conversations. We know through Brené's research that the #1 barrier to a courageous culture is the inability to engage in effective, tough conversations. And so tomorrow we're going to talk about and get you thinking about, how do I want this to turn out? What do I need to think about before I go in? How do I start the conversation? And how do I end the conversation? And lastly, like we do at the end of all episodes, please take a moment to provide us with feedback using the QR code or the link you see in the chat feature. I'll stay on for a few moments if you need anything from me. Thank you and have a great day.